All right. Let's talk about the LCS walkout. This is Travis Gafford covering the story. I got to go pee real quick.
But the LCS players have officially voted to walk out. This happened last night. I know a lot of you have heard about it, but I have some interesting information about the behind the scenes of how this all came to be. And I'm not going to dive into like the thing that led up to them deciding to walk out. Mikhail has a great article. It's
I have to pee. I'll be back in a second.
You can check it out if you would like all those details. But we're going to start with basically the time from when they decided they were going to hold the vote up until the vote and just a little bit afterwards. Initially, a lot of people behind the scenes thought that this vote would just not pass. There was a ton of skepticism, including for myself, for many different reasons. One, the players in the past have not always taken the association super seriously. And while people have a misunderstanding of how effective the Players Association has been, at least in the past 2 years, I think generally speaking, there's just a degree of sense that these guys are lazy, that they don't care about it, that there's a lot of players from other regions that are not incentivized to care about a North American development system, and that overall this would be just something that, while some players might feel very passionately about, overall it would likely fail. That changed for me a little bit when we had Vulcan on Hotline League last week, and he talked a lot about how he was working to organize stuff and how he'd felt really good about the conversations he'd had with his colleagues on FlyQuest. And also around that time, I learned that Doublelift was on board with all of this, right? Obviously, he's a really big name in the league. So I think I tweeted at that time something about how my confidence had gone up to about 50-50. And again, this was just like weighed down by a lot of the past where players had failed to stand up for stuff or just been uninvested, I guess, in the way that this works. But either way, we got eventually to yesterday, and that's where things started to really heat up because I started to hear from multiple sources that Riot had been reaching out to the teams and basically telling them that games had to be played on Thursday no matter what happens. And teams that failed to do so would face potentially fines and forfeiture if they could not field a legal roster. But that Riot was also going to be extending the deadline by which teams could sign up subs to compete on their teams. All right, normally in these videos, I do a pretty good job, I think, of presenting the sort of facts or the information at the beginning and then providing my analysis at the end. But I don't think I could do that here. One, I want to mention that Evie also tweeted this out before I made this video. So if you want additional reporting on it or another person, to try to mention that this is happening, feel free to go look at that tweet. But I also reached out to Riot about this almost 24 hours from the time I'm recording this video, and I did not hear back from them. This is wild for so many reasons. Sorry, I'm trying not to swear because it is just crazy to me. So one, Riot doing this essentially passes on pressure to the teams to ensure that.
I just want to point to something here. For those of you who are wondering, my understanding of League. This is all I know. That's what I got. I don't really know too much. For your information, they probably always get back. Travis is like an OG LCS journalist. League sucks. You're not missing anything. I know. I joked about it yesterday where I said that, these guys are doing. For a long time, this was Travis's credentials too. I know Doublelift. Yeah, that even means nothing to me. I'm so lost. Oh, that's Doublelift. He's a very famous League player. I did used to play Defense of the Ancients, Dota, Visita Hariventra. Since then, I've rarely... Since then, I have made a pact with myself to never touch another MOBA game ever again. And I will never play League. I will never play any of these games. Who's your hero? I would swap between Axe, whatever the fuck Axe, Ox. This was in Turkey, whatever the name of that character was. I'm forgetting now. And Rikimaru. Notice how both of those characters have crit damage, one from behind the back and the other from crit damage that is if you got hit a lot. I was a crit cheeser. Anyway, how toxic was Dota in Turkey? It was really bad. That's proc, not a crit, you donkey. That's a proc, not a crit, you donkey. Yeah, I don't care. Anything that I don't remember from Dota is a good thing. Okay? It's good. I just remember PT. PT. That's literally all I remember. I don't even remember any of the fucking things that you needed to buy to like make shit. I don't remember anything. Anyway, let's continue.
That the lockout doesn't happen, because if you're literally telling them like you're going to face forfeiture and potentially financial repercussions or penalties, like that is just you basically telling the teams like, hey, you need to make sure that games are played, and teams are going to feel pressured to try to make sure that a walkout doesn't happen. So I think that's just a really bad look. Also, the idea that opening day of summer split in the LCS, a league that is already facing significant brand damage, is going to move forward just running like a circus of players on teams that don't matter and don't reflect the reality of the league, and and that nobody knows in a lot of cases, and that these games are going to end up counting. Like, this is how you're going to open your day. This is what you think is the best potential option. Like, I'm trying not to flame right.
The walkout is in response to what Riot and the team organizations are doing with the NACL, the amateur side of LCS. Basically, what they're going to do is remove the amateur scene in NA. Scab pros, imagine doing this with football. It would be awesome. They have done this. Didn't they literally do this in football? They did. Yeah, they did it. Yeah, I think they brought in like players from XFL. They had scab refs a while ago. Anyway. Yeah, we've watched this before on the broadcast. Randall Cunningham seizes the means of production. This is from John Boyce when he was over at SB Nation, and this is like one of the last times this did happen. They put replacement players on board. LCS has denied most of the requests from the Players Association and are threatening to cancel the LCS summer season in 2 weeks. This is like, spoiler alert, dude. This just fucking came out. Let's go through the story piece by piece. Like, at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break, okay? And during the fucking 3-minute ad break process, new updates might happen, okay? But you're fucking spoiling the story. You no longer want to see those ads. All you need to do is subscribe, which you can do for $5 or free with a Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. By connect or by getting gifted a sub. Speed Racer, thank you for the 5. Get the subs, allowing 5 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. Here's a 3-minute ad break now. Anyway, I'm gonna cover the updates in a second. Red hot summer strikes are going to be happening. Esports directors, writers, actors, UPS. Yeah, esports players is perhaps one of the last areas where I thought there would be some actual labor action. But 5.83, Jesus Christ, dude. Chatters are fucking haters. Actually. Anyway, look, gamer unionization was the last thing I expected in 2023. Esports labor action is peak online left combination of words. I mean, who cares? I'm not understanding this labor strike. The big leagues are protesting because there's no more small league. I wish there was a better explainer, because he didn't like fully go into what happened with the situation at first. LCS remains on schedule. Teams have been granted permission to sign additional players post roster lock. Meanwhile, the NALCSPA is working to mitigate the signings. The LCS Players Association, LCS orgs are obligated to play due to contract with Riot. So here. Okay, so the walkout vote has been overwhelmingly passed. It's not a decision LCS players have come to lightly. Countless discussions and debates were had between all LCS players in the week leading to this historic vote. One thing is clear from those conversations. Our players want to play and compete above all else. Joining hands to put competition aside is a testament to the significance and urgency of the issues at hand. We stand at this. Okay, hold on. We stand at this impasse because actions were taken by Riot without prior communication or discussion with the LCS players. The LCSPA sincerely hopes Riot will avert this walkout by joining us in the coming days to have an open and transparent discussion so that we can forge collaborative solutions and ensure the best futures for the LCS and NACL. So, what is it? It's like as far as I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a minor league and then there's a major league, right? I'm using like really stupid terms here, but there's a minor league that you advance into the majors from, okay? And Riot decided to yeet the minor league without talking to the League Players Association, and that's how it's not a promotion. It's more so you're just farmed out from the amateur league into the majors. Right? Like you farm. They scout the minor leagues. It's similar to baseball in that regard. So, and the LCS pros, considering a lot of them are from that minor league that they were farmed out from, they're striking with their friends, just got fired when they were told they wouldn't. Plus, they use that system to get to pro in the first place. Getting rid of it ensures no more path to pro for native NA players. Okay. It used to be a promotion relegation system between the two until the franchise system came about. So, think of it if NA got rid of AAA baseball and only grab players from elsewhere. Here's the timeline with updates. Okay. This was a very long post that I didn't want to read, but I think it's good to get a better understanding of it. And organizations don't want it because they have franchise spots that they're paying a lot of money for, and they want to just like pick whoever they want. Is that what it is? Unfortunately, the LCSPA does not have even close to as much power as traditional sports player associations that are true unions. It's honestly going to be very difficult for the LCSPA to get the demands they want from Riot, given the current poor financial situation for all North American esports organizations and Riot's esports arm at the moment. If you need any specific details on the situation, let me know, says Slasher. Here's a recap of what's happening in NA with the LCS and NACL. NA Challengers League / Academy teams for those who haven't kept track. LCS teams have requested Riot to eliminate the requirement of fielding NACL teams. Riot has agreed to this request, citing the aim of achieving greater operational and financial flexibility. The LCS Players Association has highlighted that approximately 70 jobs may be lost as a result of this decision. They have criticized Riot for making contradictory statements and rushing the decision without proper planning and prior notice. They have also proposed an alternative plan. Out of the 10 LCS teams, only FlyQuest, Evil Geniuses, and Team Liquid have chosen to maintain their roster in the NACL, as the remaining 7 teams have decided to withdraw. In response to the changes made to the NACL, the LCSPA has called for a vote among LCS players to stage a walkout as a form of protest. That's fire. That's labor action. Respect. Last night, an overwhelming majority of LCS players voted in favor of the walkout. They will therefore not be playing in the LCS and can't be forced to do so. It has been reported that LCS teams will be obliged to field an LCS roster due to an agreement with Riot that mandates them to have competitive rosters. Consequently, they will need to sign new players to fulfill this requirement. However, the LCSPA, the Players Association, will attempt to mitigate those signings. To give more context, 50% of the current LCS players have been through the NACL. The economical situation of the LCS teams is very difficult, as it has been reported that many are trying to sell their spot. I also know from sources that salaries have been drastically reduced in the LCS this year. Sources also say that the cost to run an NACL team is around $1 million per year. However, the LCSPA alternative plan also addresses those issues. Additionally, each LCS team has been given $3 million by Riot in order to help them out for the LCS NACL this year. So, I don't really fully understand the dynamics here, but from what I understand, like Riot owns everything, right? Like they own literally everything. It's not like the NBA, it's not like the NFL. They just own everything. So they can do basically whatever the fuck they want. The amount of leverage they have is insane. They own the IP, they own the leagues, they own whatever the fuck they want. And right now, it seems like a lot of teams, a lot of franchise teams, a lot of league teams, and I mean, I think even the same goes for Valorant in some respects. Like they are, they're very, I mean, it's very expensive endeavor. They don't own the teams, but it doesn't matter because they own everything else. And given how financially not viable it is to currently manage a team, all of these organizations are trying to either A, sell their franchise spots, or B, disbanding their teams in general, right? Am I getting this correctly? But it's not like they can go and make their own league because it's League of Legends. Riot owns it. Riot owns the IP. Like, imagine if someone owned the IP of football. You know what I mean? Like, and like, if you wanted to go outside and throw the pigskin around, they were like, no, you can't do that. I've heard rumors that LCS teams are even trying to pick up the fired NACL players to fill the walkout players' spots. Riot sees esports as a marketing division and is incredibly protective over their control over their product. It's also important to remember that League is way more popular in Asia, and the North American League has always been seen as extremely weak and even unproductive. So, Riot doesn't own the teams, but Riot owns the spots in its own league, and they sell those spots to other. Teams that buy those spots, and those spots are actually, if I'm not mistaken, pretty fucking expensive. So, some companies have decided to even sell those spots to other teams instead of maintaining a League of Legends team. Right? Is that correct?
Yeah, like on a serious note, it's really sad to see all the organizations just drop their NACL.
Riot caved into the team's wishes. All LCS teams were previously required to have a minor league team, but they removed that, and 7 out of 10 teams dropped their minor league squad, causing 70 jobs to be lost overnight. Riot owns even more in Valorant because the orgs didn't buy their spot like they had to in League. I own the IP of football. The teams own their spots in the LCS.
teams. I mean, part of the reason why franchising was a thing, the whole reason that franchising started was because the teams leveraged the fact that franchising would allow them to explore North American talent. They would be able to build great rosters for the future. They would be able to invest in talent now that might not be great, give them the LCS experience, and then in like 2-3 years time, they could be top tier players. But they weren't able to do this before because of relegations. You know, you were afraid to start one of these, rookie players, a North American, like a North American challenger in terms of like in the Challengers League. You didn't want to start an academy player and have them run it down on stage and then you just lose your spot in the LCS because of it. It's one of the main things that was sold to you as fans. And then now they want to turn around and be like, you know what, guys? Like, we actually really do care about North American talent, but times are tough. The economy is bad. So we're actually just going to destroy our fucking pipeline of North American talent ourselves. And somehow that's supposed to be okay. When these teams,
I love when people tell me about IW Dominate, like as though I don't know him personally, like as though I haven't hung out with him in the real world. Like, yes, I
mean, these teams have money.
IW Dominate, ain't no way, whatever.
It's just a choice, right? They don't think that they are going to make direct money off NACL. Like, the way that they see it is like, are we going to be able to get enough in buyouts for the players in our NACL team to justify all of the salaries? And if the answer is no, then they're like, no. Okay, then there's no reason to actually continue with it. Yeah, it's tough, bro. I think that it's really a bad sign for North American LCS that you have everyone trying to sell, and then as soon as they voted, this is the first opportunity where you could not have a challengers team, an academy team in LCS history, right? Like, it was part of franchising where they were required in the LCS contract to have.
I called him by his birth name, IW Dominate, more like IWW Dominate. Yeah.
You have everyone trying to sell, and then as soon as they voted, this is the first opportunity where you could not have a challengers team, an academy team in LCS history, right? Like, it was part of franchising where they were required in the LCS contract to have an academy team. The first opportunity that they can actually dismiss their academy team fully, almost everyone's done it. Like 7 out of the 10 teams have done it. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough.
The only NACL is the salt that these gamers are crying, right? Gamers are gross and must be stopped. Riot is also now offering to pay the scabs more than the pros who are striking. Typical. Scabs are getting nearly twice the daily rate of an average LCS player at almost 2K a day, and that will most likely be average gold players, lol. Yeah. Esports is permanently hampered because all video games are IPs owned by corporations, giving them extreme leverage in all situations, says Slasher. The world's biggest esports organizations, such as 100 Thieves, C9, or FaZe, down lol, boo, Slasher, we phase up in this building, have barely any negotiating power against the publishers, let alone players themselves, who are hung out to dry. The LCSPA is the first real-time players' rights are being fought for against a major game developer, but Riot has near unilateral control over the situation. Slasher, just DM me on Discord. Let's talk, and then you can do a better job of describing the situation to me, because of my specifically anti-MOBA stance. This is making it very hard for me to comprehend exactly what's going on. Because I have a general distaste for MOBA, and I think that it turns normal humans into fucking freaks. You should make an esports team called the HasanAbis. Yeah, let me go and buy an esports team while this is what's happening. That seems like a good idea. That seems like a great idea. Yeah. What a great time to do that. Can't think of a better time to do that. I have a bridge to sell if you're in the market. Toast literally just bought. I messaged you on Discord. Toast is only losing $1 million per year on esports. I think is a good idea for a team. Yeah, that's insane. That seems insane. That's crazy. I can't begin to explain how crazy this is. I'm calling you. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello.
Last time you were on this broadcast, you know, it's a very long time ago.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. You said some things last time you were on this broadcast that became permanently memeified. Slasher.
Is that true? You sure?
I think so.
I can't remember.
Oh, you can't remember what it was?
Can't quite remember at all what we're talking about. Nope.
You can't.
No recollection.
Okay, I won't bring that up then. If you can't recall what happened last time you were on this broadcast, it's all good. Okay.
We're coming up on 3 years, you know.
Chat, stop spamming stuff.
Coming up on 3 years, Hasan.
Chat, stop spamming things that happened 3 years ago that didn't actually happen. Okay.
3-year anniversary this June.
Oh
and
my
something
God.
that I don't have any recollection of. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, we just wiped that. We just wiped that from the memory bank. Okay.
Hasan, Toast is only losing $1 million a year.
Yeah, that sounds psychotic.
Ludwig and Charlie are only losing about $1.5 million to $2 million a year. Didn't you just get a fat contract? You can afford it.
Yeah,
from what I read on the internet, you're a journalist
now.
now.
You're a journalist. You should know that those contracts aren't exactly flush. I didn't get a contract with YouTube. I got an exclusivity deal with Twitch. Okay.
I heard that Kick is offering hundreds of millions of dollars right now.
Yeah, as long as I fucking sell Gamba on the side, probably. So I think I'm good on that.
I think your chat would love to see Team HasanAbi.
Yeah. Yeah, the chat would, and then everyone would be killing me online. They'd
just
be like,
team up with XQC.
Yeah.
He's already backed out. He's already gotten cold feet. You and him, just like Charlie and Ludwig have teamed up. I think you and Felix together would be an incredible combo.
Yeah, I would love to have a stable partner in this. One that is reliable and consistent and certainly never backs out of deals. That seems great.
Felix sounds exactly what you're talking about. No.
Yeah. Okay, so talk to me. So League of Legends, it's owned by Riot, a massive company. Which is like partially owned by Tencent, right? Or entirely owned by Tencent?
100% owned by Tencent.
100% owned by Tencent.
All of your money is going to China. Your voice comms are being recorded.
Yeah, that's fine. I've played Valorant. They have kernel level access to my computer. It's all good. It's fine. I love China, so I don't have an issue with that. Rod, do you want to turn on your camera or no?
By the way, nope.
Nope, you do not want to turn your camera.
I don't have it set up. It's not even. I gotta go get it. No, it's
okay.
Fine.
Never mind.
Okay. No one wants to see me, Hasan. What are you talking about?
Well, people are confused as to who I'm talking to. We're talking to an OG, a legend in the field. Okay, so
yeah, not like you would come see me. This guy comes to New York. Okay, we'll go to Tarek's apartment in Brooklyn. Will not meet up with me for 5 minutes. I just want to say hello. I don't want to snipe you on your stream. Just wanted to say hi. Couldn't take 5 minutes. It's okay, Hasan. I understand.
Okay, first of all, Tarek is my blood relative. Okay, it's a little different.
Yeah,
it's a little different, and also that we were streaming. So
I want 23andMe proof on that.
Wait, hold on. Let me. I'm pulling up a photo of you so that people know who I'm talking to. There you go. Okay.
Wonderful.
All right. So, all right, let's get to it. So you got multiple different leagues, right? And NA is one of them, right? And it's seen as like kind of the black sheep of all the other leagues.
League of Legends is not doing too good in North America right now. No. It is much more popular in China. It's much more popular in Korea. It's even much more popular in Europe. North America is probably the weakest region in terms of total player base. And also in results, we are bad. We are bad at video games. We do not win any championships. The North American League of Legends community has as good of a chance of winning Worlds as USA does in the World Cup, which means zero. We have a 0% chance of ever winning.
Yeah, it's because we're too busy getting laid, okay?
Is it? Have you seen the chat on Twitch? I don't know if anybody's getting laid.
Okay, well, I was just trying to look for a reason as to why that's the case. So, all right, so we're not getting pussy and we're not winning Worlds. And Worlds is like the global championship, right? Just explain this because there's a lot of people in here that love labor action and are, pro worker, but are completely oblivious to what League of Legends actually is. So you're not talking to like a regular Twitch audience, as you know. Very different.
No, it's a video game you should never play. You are correct. It is a MOBA. Do not play these games. Okay.
Yes,
what we do here in America is we shoot people. All right. That's what we do. That is our culture. We shoot people in the head. We play games where you shoot people in the head. And that is kind of how we have evolved as society. So no MOBA. Get in your shoot 'ems.
Yeah.
That's what we do here. We're actually really good at shooting people in the head. Like historically in esports, America has been always great at shooting other people. We're really not good in terms of strategy. Anything that involves like having to use your brain at a high level,
we're animals. We're animals and we have a lot of guns. Even though the only time what was it? It was Todic that won a gold for an American team for Counter-Strike, right? Gold medal.
Yeah.
Olympic athlete. Olympic esports athlete, and he was Turkish. So
Europeans are better at shooting people than we are in video games. I mean, in real life, I guess you would say 50-50, but in video games, Europeans are definitely better. But Americans can still hold up historically. We definitely have won some titles shooting people.
Okay,
in video games.
So anyway, we got there's the American League of Legends is the American League of Legends scene is like not great currently. So explain before you get into like the franchising stuff. I guess one question I have is I've heard a lot of stuff about like big esports organizations like pulling their spots off of the NA scene and how does that process work? Like big esports corporations like purchase slots in order to be able to compete. How does that work?
Well, one, nothing's going well right now. Generally the entire esports industry is not doing too well financially. It's not even doing great on Twitch. I mean, there's a larger issue that Twitch itself as a company and in terms of Twitch's total traffic is not doing well. And that's actually somewhat related to esports' poor shape now because Twitch as a company is not doing too well, but esports in general not doing too good. But several years ago, to get into the league in the first place, Riot, along with Activision Blizzard, had the genius idea to make franchise leagues. Because all we know here is North American sports, and every North American sport is a franchise league. Unlike in Europe, where you have real football with the Premier League, and everything is relegation. If you're really good, you stay in the Premier League. If you're really bad, you get downgraded into the secondary and third leagues. Here in America, we want permanent slots so that no matter how bad you are, even if you're the Pittsburgh Pirates, even if you're the Cincinnati Reds, even if you're my New York Knicks, you will never, ever be able to be kicked out of the traditional sports league. So, all the game developers figured, let's just copy this, what we do here. And they did that for League of Legends and Riot, and they did the same. Activision Blizzard did the same thing for Call of Duty and for Overwatch, and they forced.
I have a question for you before we move on.
Yeah, sure.
Is the structure different in Asia? Like, do they have farming programs and like lower leagues that people farm out of, or is it also franchised?
It used to be, and this is the first year Riot actually enforced that both Korea and China would be like America, and that they have to have franchise leagues. But historically, they have always had a great tier 2 system, which went right into the tier 1 system. So Korea and China had the relegation system, but Riot forced this new franchise system for League of Legends into Korea and China. They actually learned a lot from all this, and Valorant does not technically have the exact same system that League of Legends does. They have what is considered a partnership system, where you do not have to pay for a slot, and that Riot can kick you out. In League of Legends and in Overwatch and Call of Duty, you had venture capitalists and you had traditional sports owners like the Kroenkes, who own the Rams, and I think they own Chelsea. You have the Wilpons, who have the New York Mets. You have the Kraft, who own the New England Patriots. They were all really good friends with Bobby Kotick, the piece of shit CEO of Activision Blizzard, and he was able to get them to buy into the Activision Blizzard leagues. The same thing kind of happened here with Riot, where like the Golden State Warriors own one of the slots for the LCS, for example. So in LCS, people had to pay $10 to $15 million to own the slots. And Activision Blizzard, they were able to scam owners to pay $25 to $30 million for each of those slots. So the owners do own the slots in this franchise league. In Valorant, for example, the difference is no one paid to get into the Valorant League.
That was an invite, right? That's like
Yes.
Invitations from Riot. That hands to like whichever teams are allowed. But then also there's a secondary league that in order to get to is Challenger, is it, or the championships VCT? In order to get to it, there's like a second league, I guess, with like other
it's called Ascension.
Other organizations that didn't make it or didn't get an invite were able to compete their way up to the VCT, right?
Yeah, so like Charlie and Toast and Ludwig's teams, they're in the secondary league. You can, by winning the Ascension, get into the partnered league. So Riot actually did learn from their fuck ups from the franchise League of Legends stuff and did it totally differently for Valorant. The difference is that Riot can at any time kick you out of the partnered league if they do not feel like you are holding up the demands that you entered into when the partnered organizations first got onto the league. Like G2 wasn't originally going to be a partnered team in the Valorant league
because they lost their slot, right? Like they were originally invited and they lost their slot due to Andrew Tate and the owner of G2 being a massive Andrew Tate dick rider. I don't know if you knew this or not, but he also used to always try to hang out with me every time he was in Los Angeles and like tried to sign me multiple times to G2.
Good thing you said no to Carlos.
That's fun. That's a little fun fact for you. Which I always thought was so strange that he made that jump from like being a fan of mine to being an Andrew Tate fan.
Well, now he's not paying child support and he's not seeing his kid also. So things are not going very well for Carlos at the moment. So you did a good thing.
Well, maybe I did a bad thing. Maybe if I hung out with him, he wouldn't have been a fucking Andrew Tate dick rider.
You could have saved him. You could have prevented this timeline. So anyway, yes. So Valorant is a little bit different. Riot did learn from their mess ups with the this whole League of Legends portion, and they did things differently with Valorant. However, League of Legends and then Activision Blizzard with Overwatch and Call of Duty are all franchise leagues. But as I was saying in chat, the difference is with traditional sports, these are video games that are IPs that are owned by mega corporations. In traditional sports, nobody owns basketball. No one owns football. The NFL and the NBA and the MLB are the owners all coming together for an association where they all work together and the commissioner is the representative of the owners. That dynamic does not exist here in esports. The developers, namely Riot, Activision Blizzard, even Valve, but Valve is actually much different. Valve is like, do whatever the fuck you want. We don't give a shit. Just don't fuck up where we have to come in and fix everything, you morons. But Valve is actually has a very laissez-faire approach where they let the entire third-party ecosystem do things on their own, and things have actually gotten much better in Valve's approach than it has to Riot or Activision Blizzard. However, they still own the game.
Gaben is the GOAT. Gaben is the legend.
Gaben is the GOAT. But things are still, it's better in Valve's way, but they still own Counter-Strike. They still own Dota. These mega corporations, these game companies still own the IPs. So they make all of the money when it comes to revenue. Most of the money the game developers make is through in-game microtransactions. And that has
gambling on CS:GO crates, or in Valorant's case, me buying every skin imaginable, even though I'll never fucking rank above silver.
You've bought everything, of course you have. How much money have you given Riot to China?
Dude. First of all, the China angle is nullified in my case. Knowing that it's a Chinese company makes me only want to buy more skins. Okay.
Okay. Yes.
I am a big fan of Chinese prosperity and the real top Xi Jinping. If anything, this is really not like him. Mr. Xi, please put down your phone. This is not like you. You spread love, not hate. Don't allow these players in NA to be cast aside like this, is what I would say to Xi if he was watching.
Now I know where you get all your big donos from.
Yeah.
China has single-handedly made the Counter-Strike skin market explode like 300 to 400% in the last couple of years. So you're on the right path. And all those Oilers are now China Oilers. So you're doing a good job, Hasan. I'm proud of you.
Yeah. So anyway, whatever. It's a Chinese company is irrelevant in this process. So Riot owns the IP, so they have full control over whatever the fuck happens. They can literally shut you out of the game if they technically wanted to, right? Like they could IP ban you if they wanted to.
Yeah, they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, which is insane. Like you can't get banned from playing football. Like you can get banned from playing in the NFL, but you couldn't get banned from playing football. Like that's not a level of control that the NFL has over just the game. And
if you're Tom Brady, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. Well, regardless, so they have a lot of control and they're exercising it in this situation. Let me I guess explain it one more time, and you can tell me if I'm wrong on this. So there's in NA they decide to do before the franchising, they decided to do, or while the franchise spots were in existence, they also decided to create a farm league, right?
Yes.
They decided to make a feeder league or a farm league where you could get scouted from and you could get into the franchised league slots, right?
Yep.
And a lot of players, from what I understand, players in the players union and players inside of these, the professional players who are in these franchised teams, were coming from that league, from the feeder league. Right?
Yeah, a good amount. I mean, part of it is that North American amateur talent and the entirety of the North American scene is so poor that the franchise leagues usually opted to bring in imports from Europe or Korea or China instead of bringing up the academy players from these challenger teams that we're talking about. But though this is the fault of the organizations themselves, they could have brought up more talent from the amateur challenger scene into their franchise league, but they're always so enamored with bringing over a star talent, or I would say a wash talent from Korea, China, or Europe instead of bringing up North American players. But yes, that is generally what happens.
Okay. So what's the reason why they decided they decided to just completely nix the other not the non-franchise league in its entirety? What's the conflict here?
But the organizations, came to Riot. Much of this was the esports organizations themselves: 100 Thieves, TSM, Cloud9, etc. Because of the such poor financial state of the entire industry, where venture capitalists are leaving, sports owners are, selling their stakes in these teams. Sponsors are heavily leaving and they're not renewing their contracts because of, the dire state of the financial stability. That caused all the organizations to basically come together and ask that they no longer have to be forced to pay the secondary team. And alongside this, as I mentioned earlier, North American League of Legends in general is not really doing a whole very well in terms of like the total player base or the total viewership. So it was really like the organizations pushing for this, but it was also Riot, like, kind of somewhat agreeing, considering they do control everything. They did have to agree with the organizations that this is a waste of money from their standpoint. It is not worth supporting the tier 2 scene and the academy players.
Okay.
Look, on one hand, I understand. Yes, esports is kind of screwed at the moment, and things are not going well. However, I do not have sympathy for one, Riot, several billion-dollar corporation. They are, especially with Blizzard's downfall, they are pretty much the number one with Valve PC gaming company in the world, and they make a ton of money off of their games from League of Legends and from Valorant. I don't have a ton of sympathy in them not being able to support a couple $1 million here and there for these players who want to keep their jobs. And two, these organizations sold false goods to the venture capitalists, to the sports owners, that esports is going to be bigger than sports, and that, the League of Legends World Championship is going to be bigger than the Super Bowl. That was always bullshit. That was never a real thing that was happening in our industry. But, all of these big esports companies sold this false reality to the people that were giving money. They were able to get hundreds of $1 million from Twitch, hundreds of $1 million from YouTube. Now Twitch and YouTube don't even want to pay for the rights anymore because they understand that the value and the traffic is not there for what it was. So I don't have sympathy there for the organizations either. They made the bed that they are in to begin with. They're the ones that drove these valuations up to several hundred millions of dollars that were never realistic to begin with. So they should be forced to pay these players. Riot should take some of the billions of dollars that they're making and pay these players. These players should not be left out in the cold because of poor decisions from both the developer and from these organizations to not control their companies the right way, and for none of them to be profitable. It shouldn't take 100 thieves trying to sell hoodies to financially keep the entire scene stable. That is an absurd, ridiculous notion. So to swipe the rug out of these players who are just trying to make a living and to get by playing the game and promoting the game this entire time for this developer, for these organizations, yeah, I really am on the side of the players. The players have no leverage here. The organizations barely have any leverage because the publishers own everything. They own the IPs, they own the leagues. Blizzard and Riot could do what they want. So it's like not even 100 Thieves and Cloud9 and TSM and Phase Down or whatever. They can barely get money out of the esports ecosystem. The players are at the bottom of the totem pole here. So you have even the teams that can't do anything. Now they're working along with the developers to basically pressure the players, and to make sure and to put their boot onto the players. And tier 2 players who grind this game for hours and hours a day just to get a chance to play in the Premier League should not have their opportunities taken away and the small amount of money that they're making to get by to try to make their dream a reality here. So the Players Association in League of Legends is one of the first times in any esport game that there's a real association fighting for the rights of the players. So I have no sympathy here for the organizations or for Riot in this scenario.
And it seems like they're trying to, it seems like they're trying to protect the NA scene, which could literally become a very marketable entity down the line if there was enough investment given to that rather than continuing with the old way of doing business. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it's impossible for me, from where I'm standing. It seems ridiculous to say that a fucking nation with like 330 million people in it don't have any good fucking gamers. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's like funny to say, oh, near airport, NA is shitty, it's dog shit, whatever. But that just means that there isn't enough investment into it. That there isn't enough investment into funding, farming, scouting, and building up players inside of North America in the North American player base.
I mean, look, I've been in this industry, in this community for over 20 years. I have been all aboard the Americans are not as good because of our culture, because of our work ethic, because of the lack of total players here, because of high ping, bad servers, bad scrim time, not enough teams to scrim, not enough teams to schedule. There's a laundry list of reasons that American teams and players do not do very well, let alone in League of Legends, but in all international esports, whether it's Valorant or Counter-Strike or Street Fighter or anything, American players or teams just traditionally have not done as well. However, if we want Americans to eventually, and a North American team to eventually win the World Championship, how would, totally carving out the tier 2 amateur scene help get to that situation? This is only going to make things worse. If you are rooting for North American players and North American organizations, gutting the tier 2 scene and not allowing these players to make a little bit of money while they try to get into the show to see what they can do, this is not going to help everything.
Yeah. So you're on the side of the player other than this one. People keep saying in the chat that like NA players, while not being very competitive in the global stage, are also getting paid more or something than other markets. And I don't know if there's any validity to that. I feel like that seems like weirdly...
The only in China, players are making more than America because China has like the best ever esports ecosystem. Each of the teams in China can draw 5,000 to 10,000 fans for each local match. Like each individual local match in China has a stadium of people coming out for all of their teams. In China, League of Legends is by far the most played in terms of the most amount of players. It's the most viewed. Whenever the World Championship each year has like, I think the Riot comes out with like 80 or 90 concurrent million concurrent viewers or watch the final, I would say 95% of that is China. The rest is North America, Europe, and Korea combined. So China has a gigantic, huge ecosystem for esports that is very financially viable. But number 2 is North America, because that's where all the money is. All the big sponsors are American. All the like big VCs and traditional sports owners are American. European owners don't have as much pull as like American sports teams and American, like traditional American sports leagues. And Korea, for as great as they are like the best players historically for League of Legends. Their scene in terms of like the business side does not nearly have as much money for players. T1, which is like the biggest Korean team, is owned by Comcast. Like they got bought out by Comcast. And T1 is owned by, so T1 is basically an American team. So that's how they can afford Faker to pay him as the highest paid player, League of Legends player in the world. They're basically getting paid, by Americans over there. SKT1, which was the former Korean team, and how they got to T1 would have never been able to afford Faker if they were just still SKT1. They needed that American money. So yes, considering how poor performance the North American organizations have had in League of Legends, the players probably shouldn't be paid as much compared to the Korean or the European players, because they've had a much better time performing when it counts. But this is just the economic situation in America. There's just more money here. All the sponsors are here. All the VCs are here. All the money.
That's why I'm saying there's an opportunity for the NA scene to be significantly more competitive, because there's so much more money. Because the way I see it, correct me if I'm wrong, like I said, I'm very uninitiated on this stuff, but the championships, whether it be the VCT or LCS, these are just the marketing arm of Riot. They see this as a way to market their product to a broader audience, right? So that they come in, they play, they gamble, they get invested, they put thousands of hours into this fucking game. constantly wanting to kill themselves as they play the fucking game, and they buy all the skins, and they dump a shitload of money into these fucking skins, which are not actually giving them any sort of competitive advantage, even though you still keep buying them over and over again. Gamble is in gamble with your life. Sorry, chatters. I didn't mean like literally gamble like CSGO skins. I meant like CSGO crates. I meant, just lose yourself in the game. Okay, and it's very profitable. It's a very profitable venture, but it's for marketing, right?
Yes, historically, like all of the esports efforts for Riot and Activision Blizzard are done as a marketing arm. Like everything that is being done for the League of Legends historically in esports has been done for marketing because the game companies make all their money from the microtransactions, not from the sponsorships. However, in recent years, you've had Riot try to get LCS to be profitable. They have tried really, really hard to make the actual product itself be profitable and not tied to the transactions. And Activision Blizzard fucked all of this up by basically lying to everybody and telling everyone that Overwatch League was going to be this enormous, gigantic hit and that Call of Duty League was going to be bigger than the NBA or whatever. Activision Blizzard, out of all of the different companies, definitely sold the fakest bullshit to everybody to get everyone to run from everything. So Riot, considering Activision Blizzard went so far to fuck everything up, Riot's been pretty good comparatively. However, esports has still been basically a marketing arm for microtransactions. But they are trying to get LCS specifically to be profitable. And Activision Blizzard tried to get the Overwatch League and Call of Duty League itself to be profitable. But that has been a complete disaster, especially the Overwatch League, which has completely fallen on the wayside because Overwatch itself as a game has been completely mismanaged from top to bottom, and Overwatch 2 is a complete fuck up too. So the game itself is not, that's what caused that. Like that's actually the biggest issue in all this. League of Legends and the LCS is not doing well because League of Legends is having a tough time as a game here in North America. The same thing with Overwatch League. Like for all the problems the Overwatch League itself has had, Overwatch not doing too well has cascaded a lot of the issues that Overwatch League has. Call of Duty
League has
actually,
because it has capital. There's capital flight. Is that what you're saying? Because Overwatch League being an abject failure, it turned investors off from like investing in dumping unlimited amounts of funds into esports. Is that what you're saying? So people are just like very scared.
Yes, I mean Overwatch League itself, because of Bobby Kotick was like best friends with Robert Kraft and Kroenke and Wilpon. That's why they invested in the first place, because they're his boys, they're his buddies. All right, they're all going to, they're all on Epstein's flight list, all of them together. So he was able to get them to all invest into the league to begin with because they're friends. And now that everything is going really poorly, and he had the sexual misconduct allegations against him.
I just got to say something, okay? Everyone is reeling from the loss of a friend. Okay, Jeffrey Epstein's untimely death, which was ruled as a suicide, was hard on a lot of CEOs of major corporations. Okay, I just want to point that out.
Moment of silence.
Yeah, it's just a lot of people are still reeling from that. They lost their best friend, Elon Musk included. Okay, let's continue.
Elon, huge fan of Overwatch, by the way.
Yeah. So okay. So now Riot is saying that they're delaying if the players do not cave, like the Players Association does not cave to Riot's lack of interest in dealing with them beyond the 2-week window, they are going to literally shelve the summer games. Is that what's going on? Like, because they said that they're prepared to cancel the entire LCS summer season. Carrying this forward, if the LCS summer season is canceled, this will also eliminate LCS teams qualifying for 2023 Worlds. I want to be clear, that is not an outcome we'd want, but unfortunately, the reality of ensuring we run a fair and competitive global system.
Yes, that means no North American teams would be at Worlds. Also, the news about the SCAB players is true. In the last 2 days, the organizations and Riot have worked together to eliminate all of the previous rules of how teams can sign players. and they are allowing organizations to sign any player, no rules. You can sign anybody, and they will pay the players $2,000 per game.
More than what they were paying the pros, from what I understand. Is that true?
If you total it up per game, it probably is more money than some of the minimum salary contracts that some players are making. Yes.
Love to have a leftist audience that doesn't even give a shit about video games all that much to only immediately be like, oh, it's time for me to fucking scab. Like, it's let me scab. A lot of you are bitches, okay?
You know, actually, the community has responded pretty well, and most of the players who have been approached by the organizations, even though like $2,000 per game would be a lot of money, and they would get the opportunity to play on stage, which they would never have gotten before. From what I understand, and people that I've spoken to, players and coaches, etc., most have turned it down. Almost everybody has turned down the organization's request to play, even with the opportunity and the money in front of them. So the players actually have been pretty good, united with the professional players in not taking the scab money and not crossing the picket line. But yeah, really, from Riot's statement today, I gauge that there is very little chance that Riot is going to relent here. Because of everything that I've said before, the Players Association, it's not like the MLB or NBA Players Association, which is a really strong union, okay? It's not like the union for cops or whatever across the country, but they have like a really good deal, and they're able to push back against the owners in baseball or basketball to get what they want. The players in League of Legends really do not have a ton of leverage, considering everything that I mentioned before. And it really does not sound like Riot wants to give in to any of the demands that the LCSPA wants here. So you don't
think they're gonna do that? You don't think they're gonna give in to any of the demands?
I mean,
they're gonna let LCS, like, they're gonna let the NA scene die and not compete in Worlds. I mean, I guess like if they're not even getting to it anyway, and it's a blip on their radar, it's one thing. But how does this impact the North American consumer market? I guess like
Riot
considering
is hoping to turn the community on their side. Riot is really hoping with this statement to get the community to flip from being against Riot and on the side of the players to being more on their side and looking at the economic situation, and to try to force the players back into playing. That is my reading of what they're trying to do here. They're trying to manipulate the community. They're trying to manipulate the situation to bring more people that are going to align with them to get a soft pushback so this scenario doesn't happen, and that NA teams are still going to play at Worlds. I could see the second half of the season being canceled as much more likely than NA teams do not show up at Worlds, because Riot does need the NA teams at Worlds to get the maximum amount of viewership, to get the maximum amount of engagement, and to sell like the sponsors on everything, because Worlds is, a huge in-person endeavor that is costing Riot tens of millions of dollars of flying teams and coaches and players and talent all across the world and hosting venues and all that other stuff. Canceling the second half of the season is probably more doable and less of a financial loss from Riot. So I could see that scenario happening where the second half of the season is pushed back even further or canceled, but they are hoping to get as much of the public on their side so that the teams,
because they want the viewership. It seems like they want the NA viewership. They don't give a fuck about the NA players. And if the NA viewership is also not interested in the NA players, then they're fine. They got rid of a costly thorn on their side while simultaneously maintaining the audience that's going to allow them to keep selling sponsorships and make more money and ensure that this isn't a bigger financial hit. Rod, there's a LCSPA board members in the chat, and they're saying they want to join the call. Do you mind if I invite them?
Yeah, of course. Phillip is the person in charge. He's done a great job.
Are you friends with him on Discord? If you can invite him into the call, if you are. The fucking Players Association person in the chat keeps adding Fossabot. Don't do that. That's not going to get you any. I don't know why you're tagging Fossabot there. That's not very helpful for you, but I see you in the chat. Rod, do you know him or no? I mean, are you friends with him on Discord?
Yes, but I don't. I'm getting his Discord now. I am friends with him, but I don't know. I'm getting his Discord.
If you can bring him into the call, that could be helpful. So yeah, Riot is saying, first and foremost, we support players. We also support teams that we believe more than ever in the LCS. Yeah,
they're just hoping that the fans and that everyone in Twitch chat is fickle. All right, and that you guys out there will not give a shit who was playing on the stage, that you would rather root for 100 Thieves or Cloud9 or TSM and not care about who was actually playing. Riot is betting and hoping that is the case. Everyone out there that is listening, who is a League of Legends fan, or people out there and just League of Legends fans in general, have to hold firm and not watch, not tune in, not give Riot any engagement, not give Riot a reason to show the world that there is no reason to have the professional players on stage and that they could sign any replacements and have everything go fine.
Yeah, like what if they go to like the Chinese feeder leagues to just fucking stack their rosters full of players that are decent, the good? Is that a thing that these teams could do, the franchise teams could do right now? And like completely override the Players Association's demands.
I don't.
Which, by the way, we didn't even talk about that. What's up with what are their demands exactly?
The Players Association.
Yeah.
I'm getting him right now. I will let him explain for you.
Riot has successfully architected a tier 2 ecosystem in other major regions, Europe, China, and Korea, and we want to do the same for North America. It will take some shifts and trade-offs to get there, so to help North America see and through this transition, we've decided to give our NACL partner, Rally Cry, an additional $300,000 in order to jumpstart the 2023 NACL season this week. This funding is an addition to the revenue share to the NACL teams we announced last week. Transitioning from the ineffective academy system to the new NACL model will be helped with this funding. Wait. Flash just left the call. Oh, wait, hold on. Here it is. Hello.
Hello.
We're joined by Philip.
This is Philip.
Um,
he is the head of the LCSPA.
Nice to meet you, son.
What's going on? I'm looking at your asks of Riot. So what happened, Philip? Explain to me what's going on. Why are you upset?
Why are we upset?
With Riot.
Not just me. I'm here to, the mouthpiece for the players in this situation. And, really the instigating incident here, I've worked for the PA and represented players for over 2 years. Every bit of our relationship with Riot has always been predicated on mutual respect and participation in the process. And up until about a month ago, or a few weeks, time has turned into a blur recently. It's been a busy time, but until very recently, that's always been the case. Riot's always known that we communicate together about what's going on. We plan far in the future, and if we have things that red lines for each other about changes, we try and work them out, and we try and figure out solutions that everybody can be on board with. Similar to any group that's in kind of constant negotiations around how how a workplace or ecosystem can be. We're not unionized, but again, esports is a funny space. We're 3 parties, and really the developer owns everything, right? They own the football, so to say. And so we act as a lobbyist, same as anyone goes to Congress. I think my job is going to, Riot. They're the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, and the president. And our job is to persuade them on how to run the IP that they own. And that's always been really successful until very recently, when between splits, the decision was made without consultation or discussion with the PA to remove the requirement for LCS teams to field, as you mentioned, AAA baseball equivalent rosters, what we call the NACL. Both sides knew that a decision like that overnight would cause the vast majority of organizations to pull out to reap some financial savings, and they did it in spite of our strong protests and, in our view, without proper prior consultation discussion about what would be necessary to make the ecosystem functional without a requirement like that in place. So that's what happened, and here we are.
Okay, so you want a Valorant-style promotion and relegation between the LCS and NACL. You want Riot to commit to a revenue pool for player salaries of $300K per NACL team per year. You want to allow the LCS orgs to partner with affiliates or for cost sharing. You want Riot guarantees with LCS minimum contracts for the following year for the 5 players who win the LCS Summer Finals each year. And you want to institute a 3/5 roster continuity rule to provide players on released NACL rosters first priority in maintaining their slots in the upcoming NACL season if a majority continue to compete together. So what did they say to that?
First off, appreciate you reading all that. I'd say first and foremost, our asks to Riot are to make a system that makes sense. That's sort of the first and foremost. These points are, they're asks, and they're also the start of a conversation about things we know would actually solve the problem. To what Riot has said to these, everyone can see Riot's public statement from tonight. What we care most about in that statement is that, and behind the scenes, we met with them before their public announcement tonight, and there was a commitment from them in the statement and behind the scenes to continued conversations and negotiations. We're going to be meeting with them tomorrow. I'm waiting on a time and checking my email to see when we're going to set up a time to talk. And I am going to say that my focus is making sure those negotiations are fruitful. We have long believed that it's about making sure the system makes sense. We've never claimed that the rule that required teams to field a third party or to field a AAA roster, the NACL, was a good rule, but it was the best solution to a bad system. Slashers talked a little bit about franchising and the issues that it creates in an ecosystem and market inequalities. If you want to get all capitalist, it creates disincentives to be successful or competitively successful, and it disincentivizes developmental leagues unless you require the people who are staked in the game to participate. So that's what we're asking for. That's what especially bullets 1 and 2 are. It's saying, hey, we need to put a system in place that actually will encourage people to participate and ensure that North American talent pipeline doesn't dry up overnight. So that's the core of our asks.
Yeah. Why do you think they are behaving in this unresponsive way, and they're trying to implement the nuclear option of like even tanking the LCS in its entirety for this season?
That's a good question. We certainly don't agree with the manner in which they posted tonight. Our preference would have been to post about the positive things that we're both working towards, which is delaying the season to lower the temperature around the scab movement that was put into effect after we announced our walkout. Once we announced our walkout and teams started reaching out to scabs, we saw undue pressure and coercion from teams to try and make players disclose if they were walking out, to pressure them not to walk out. Some things that have been reported recently that we can't speak to details because of personal situations, but it has been a dangerous thing that Riot put in place. And we asked them to delay the season. We said lower the temperature so that we can meet and we can actually come to solutions, and we don't spend all of our time convincing Diamond 1 players not to take the stage in a sham fashion. So that was first and foremost. I think their statement today is overly aggressive and doesn't set the tone right for going into these negotiations. But at the end of the day, my job is to do the work and go and meet and get ourselves to a place where our players can feel comfortable about going forward and playing. We want to play, and we just got to see they're going to put us at the table and they're going to actually listen to reason about what needs to happen for this scene to work, because the community is with us on this. They know that what's happening is not good for League of Legends globally or in North America.
Okay. All right. So how do we move forward here?
If you're in the public, I think your voices have been instrumental for us throughout this process. Solidarity has been huge. I mean, it's been incredibly humbling to see people who, I said Diamond 1, I wasn't joking. I've had a Diamond 1 player reach out to me saying I was offered a job to go play as a scab. And yeah, Rod brought up, you can make a lot of money to do that. And the fact that we're here, that they realized it was impossible to run a broadcast without player support is huge. And part of that's the community. You taking and talking about this and talking about labor movements and the importance of worker solidarity is huge. We need more people to understand the importance of that. And yeah, there's a bullet at the end of this rainbow that says the league doesn't play if we don't come to an agreement in 2 weeks. And that's a serious thing to put at stake in a conversation. But it also speaks to the power of players and the power of employees writ large. If people stand up at the end of the day, like the means of labor are what create the product, and there's no esports without the players. And so I think that's what I see today, is that they realize that, and it might have taken them a few days to, but we just need the community to keep loud and keep on the riot about coming to real solutions. That's what matters. Like, if we're going to get this season going and we're going to get to Worlds, it's going to be because we work together, not because we stood up on Twitter and on posts and yelled at each other from afar. We got to get in the room and work.
So,
given your understanding of the situation, what do you think the likelihood is that the season will be canceled?
Not going to comment on that at this time.
So, sorry, I'm getting some other questions on the side as well, but I guess like you already mentioned, it's the people watching have more power in this regard than in normal circumstances when there's like some kind of labor action. I mean, I guess like the alternative would be to try to fill the franchise slots with scab players, which has happened in the past, even in the NFL, where the player unions do have, I would say, a little bit more power than the LCSPA does over the NFL, where they like brought in scabs. And it's not like you guys have the capacity to go outside of the stadiums and like beat the shit out of the scabbing players. You know what I mean? Like which is what they did in the NFL at the time in Philadelphia, if I'm not mistaken. But no, literally, that is what happened back in the day, chat. It's part of labor history. But regardless, so I mean, I don't know where like other than players engaging in this walkout, I don't know what other actions there could be. What is the funding? I mean, I guess like part of it is there a strike fund or some kind of funding mechanism to help out players throughout this time that are a part of the Players Association? Is there a structure resembling like normal North American unions, or have you guys ever thought about partnering with the UAW or a larger union in North America like the Teamsters, which I'm sure would be perfectly willing and able to help out in situations like that? Is there any opinions on that? Because look, I don't really understand the league space at all. I play Valorant and I play it very poorly. I'm just simply talking about this or thinking about this from the perspective of like labor action in general.
Yeah. No, and I appreciate that. A lot of my work in the last 2 weeks has been educating on the history of labor in America and how labor actions work. And I started off a call a day ago just explaining what a walkout versus strike versus lockout is. So I appreciate your voice in this and helping to, bring education on this stuff to folks and just the importance of it. In terms of what we can do next, like first and foremost, like we have to keep up public pressure. You can't let the story die, and it's part of our job and it's part of the community's job to continue to make right understand that people want the LCS to happen and they want it to happen with the players that they know and love, and to come to the table and bargain in good faith. That's the first and foremost thing. We don't need a strike fund right now. Our players are still working. The walkout never actually started because Riot delayed the season, right? Our walkout was going to be the start of the season. We kind of obfuscated that, but of course we were going to walk out day one. That was when it was going to start. So right now players are, by all accounts, continuing to scrim and practice and train. So they're getting paychecks. Don't set up a bargain. Don't set up a fund for them today. Yeah. For unions, I would love to talk to IEW, Teamsters, anybody. We do have relationships, particularly through our friends and partners at One Team Partners with traditional sports unions. And those groups have been really helpful to us throughout this entire process, not just these weeks, but in the months and years behind, and helping to advise us on how to build our player power and how to, kind of awaken the labor minds of our players. Obviously, it's been a big step for us and a scary one, but they've continued to support. And shout out especially to some folks who have spent time at the NFL PA, MLB PA, and MLS PA, and NWSL PA, and WNBA PA. All those groups have had people who have helped us along this way, and we're leaning on them right now to continue to give us aid. we're talking about all of our options up to unionization, but it is very complicated because we're in a 3-party system, and it's not typical in labor for 3 parties to exist. Usually it's employer, employee, and we got employer, employee, and developer. So it makes it more complicated in some really real and really scary ways. So right now, keep the volume up.
Okay. What are so this seems to be the main point of contention, but are there other issues that players are facing that the LCSPA has spoken out about beyond so like from what I understand, and again, my understanding is not great on this stuff, so it seems like one of the major issues is that the franchise teams did not want to continue having like a farm team, right? Like through this league.
Yep.
I don't know what the proper way to call it is, I guess.
I think it's a good, I use the AAA and MLB's description all the time. I think it's pretty effective.
So, and they basically did not tell you that they were going to stop implementing this. So I feel like part of it is also the franchise teams that are complaining about profits to Riot, which is then taking this action. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's always more devil in the details. We don't begrudge the teams for I understand how corporations work. You don't want something that's not pretty on the ROI, and farm systems look like loss leaders, but it's table stakes for being in the game. When they got franchised, it was partly you said you're going to get money from the developer to run your team, and you're going to get money from the developer to run your AAA team. So that was table stakes. And for the developer to just say overnight, well, I guess because you didn't spend our money well, now you don't have to operate one of those like core components of a healthy sports ecosystem, is just deeply problematic. And we've been talking with Riot. The idea of removing this requirement was not off the table, but we were talking about it for 2024. And the reality is pulling this rug from us in the middle of 2023 has caused real harm to players, meaningful harm. We lost at least 35 player jobs, probably more, plus coaches and supporting staff who all lost jobs as well. A lot of these players were here on visas and were in year-plus leases on their own that the teams made them sign. They had to break their leases, fly home to a region where they had lost residency from because many players from the Oceanic region had declared North American residency through a recent Riot decision. So they no longer have residency in their home country. So these people got sent home with a bill they couldn't afford and couldn't even play competitively. We had to spend half of our time fighting the decision itself and half the time helping them clean up the mess they made along the way. So that's the kind of situation we're looking at here, and why we have taken the stand we have, because it's been egregious harm to players. And that's, it's the how it's done as much as that it is done. We were down to have a conversation long term about how do we get away from this requirement. What does an ecosystem look like where you don't need to require teams to participate in order for people to want to participate? Again, that gets back to our asks. You put money on the table, like revenue on the table, to incentivize teams to participate, or you give them a pathway to the upper division. Those are the 2 proven methods. That's why they were on our list of 5 items. But we're down to talk. If Riot's got an idea that works that's different, we're down. We just don't believe what's been listed so far meets that criteria. And so that's why we want to talk. We want to meet and work out a real plan, because I know there are people at Riot who care. They give a shit, and somebody's sort of forced the hand here in a way that we just don't quite understand. And we're hopeful that the next 15 days are going to lead us to some meaningful discussions and actually get some outcomes.
So I have another question about the team's involvement in this, like the esports organizations. Is it not true that they applied pressure to Riot to eliminate this, and then Riot responded? Not to take away any of the responsibility off the hands of Riot, but is that not another avenue for negotiations to bring the esports teams to the table as well?
They'll absolutely be a part of it. At the end of the day, Riot's the one who makes the call on this stuff, and they're the judge, jury, executioner. Teams, we have no love for the fact that they received more money in revenue from Riot this year than they spend on player compensation. So the idea out of the gate that they think they cannot afford to operate their teams is comical. Like they're operating with C-suites and finance people, they should be able to run a budget. It's just that simple, and they should be accountable for that. And they shouldn't be given bailouts in this way for not being responsible. So they're absolutely accountable, and they're a part of the conversation. But we look again to Riot, because Riot had the choice. The team's voting means nothing. They're an advisory capacity in the same way we are. Riot had 100% autonomy to make this decision. So, we look and understand that they're the power source, and so we're not going to put more energy than we must into a group that doesn't have real power in this situation.
So for the Players Association, what's the makeup of the Players Association? If you don't mind me asking, like, is it on the leadership side? I assume it's like democratically elected, yourself included. But are there, like, who is in the makeup of the board?
Yeah, so I'm not elected. I'm hired by the executive committee of players. So we have an executive committee of 5 players who are democratically elected by their peers, and we have a board of directors of 5 community members who have professional experience and background that help to advise and support the players pro bono. Really appreciate all of them. So the executive committee is who hires me, and the board was established by them initially, and then the board has self-selection privileges for replacement. So that is the general structure, but the power is held in the executive committee. I'm a conduit for the things they decide. I can run by their names, but I'm not sure as a low-level Valorant player if that's helpful for you.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. So the way I see it is, it's like it's a marketing arm of Riot, like the LCS is, and for that marketing to generate value, you need players, and those players are making demands, and you are bringing those demands to the bringing those demands to Riot.
Yeah, absolutely. Today they're the people. In our eyes, they set where you compete, when you compete, who can compete, and they're the ones providing the funds that pay the people who compete. So when we look and go down the list of the most important stakeholder items for our players and the things that matter to them, Riot's in charge of all of them. And so that's where our focus tends to be on them. We deal with teams frequently, and they are an important player, and we have a support from a lot of people within teams. General managers, coaches, staff, all people who care deeply about league as an esport and want the scene to work and don't agree with the decisions of their owners. Not dissimilar from the NFL, or I'm sure the NBA, where you've got plenty of people below the C-suite level that are that are compassionate and believe in the product in the right way. So, we've got those folks, and we're working with them as collaborators as well. And we seek the support of teams wherever we can, and appreciate orgs that have reached out and asked how they can be helpful and said, I don't want to hire scabs, and what do you recommend we do? So those folks have all been great. And we're going to keep working with them, but Riot is the power player, and teams know this too. We all know it. In esports, it's no secret, as Slasher pointed out. This is all, like, the developers are God. It's a space that is not oft considered because it's such a strange thing.
It's especially shitty when the devs themselves do not have a union internally within Riot, which is another way to most likely get Riot to meet your demands. If there was a union for the devs, and then they could collaborate with the Players Association, then Riot would be forced to basically concede, or even come to the table with less bargaining power, I guess, because they currently hold all the cards.
Yeah, absolutely. And they do hold the cards. Let's be real about the post they made. They said, we'll kill the league for the season if you don't come and play at some point. And this is a marketing arm for them, right? If it were the NFL, of course the NFL locks out and seasons don't happen. And, in my youth, hockey was played less frequently than it was played from lockouts and strikes. These things happen for sure, but Riot has different incentives than a traditional sports league in a lockout situation, because at the end of the day, running the sport is not their core product. The game is their core product, and they have different incentives, and that changes the calculus for how you organize and how you advocate. and it's uncharted territory. It's something that excited me about taking the job, and it also keeps me up at night because there isn't a good labor book on how to deal with somebody who's got this much power.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you, and I hope that Riot listens to the very reasonable demands that you guys are making. I mean, is there anything that you want to say to at least this audience or a broader audience in general, as far as like what watchers, viewers, league enjoyers can do?
Stay tuned. We're going to keep communicating. Our focus the next few days is going to be good faith negotiation, getting into the nitty gritty and coming out the other end with something. But we need that pressure from everybody on the way through. This delay is a space that needs to be filled with people calling for the league to see reason, and that's going to be instrumental. So anybody who can speak out and speak up, and if you have connections to folks in labor, I send them our way. We are checking our DMs as fast as we can. It has been a busy time, but we are committed to getting in there and taking every ounce of help we can get. So that was what I asked. Thank you. And just thanks for covering this and having me on. Appreciate it deeply.
Okay. All right. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you.
All right, Rod, are you there?
Yep.
All right. Do you have any final words on this?
Yeah, you used the worst fucking picture of me. I had the stream paused and I only unpaused it when Philip came on. I look like fucking Doc from Back to the Future. And you got a big Fox News logo behind me. What did you do to me?
I don't know.
You
Why did
ruined
you?
me.
Well, that's what happens when you don't turn on your camera. Okay, you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have a camera with me.
Awful, terrible, terrible. Great. Thank you, Hasan. No, but great job. Thank you for covering it. I think you covering this story does a lot for the wider audience to understand what is happening out there, and people that don't follow League of Legends should support the players in the situation. Truly, look, esports is going through a very tough financial time for everybody, and there is some reason to understand the scenario from the organization's point of view and from Riot's point of view. However, all things considered, the players are the ones that have the least amount of leverage here. They're the ones being fucked over the most, and they deserve the most support from the community. So, good job, Hasan.
All right. Thanks for coming on, guys. Have a good one.
Bye.
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 Love you.
Okay. I think the situation looks kind of grim considering how much power Riot has in this situation. Hopefully it will, hopefully it's such a weird prospect because like you're literally at the whims of this gigantic corporation. Bro, news broke that LCS is delayed for 2 weeks for negotiations. Wait, did that just come out? I'm confused. Like literally while we were having this conversation? No, I thought that this was that it's this, right? It's this. They're delaying it, and then they also said no, they said they were going to delay it, and then beyond the 2 week delay, if it continues, they'll just drop it entirely. I see it as one of the first walkouts of esports is a huge moment for gaming in general, bro. Look, do you want me to be fucking honest? Like, I think without any sort of like there's no players unions, players associations have power because they're the fucking workers, okay? They're the ones who generate value. Without the players association, the NBA doesn't exist. Without the players and the NBA doesn't exist. But LCS could potentially be dropped, it seems, by Riot, and not really thought about as much. And given that there's no internal pressure generating value, developers themselves doing something, refusing to work or anything like that, or like a developers union, also internally pressuring Riot to continue, the Riot to meet the demands. It seems very, very difficult. The value comes from, skin sales. Yes, I understand that. But It's not that they're too easily replaceable. That's not what it is. It's not that they're too easily replaceable. It's that, like, how are you going to walk out of a video game? There's no barrier. You're wrong about that. They are doing that, and you can do that. It's just that, yeah, if Riot is seeing LCS as a liability and doesn't think that, like, if Riot sees LCS as a liability and the NA region entirely as, like, bullshit, is just, like, not giving enough, not leading to enough sales in skins and whatnot, I can see them making this decision, like this insane decision. I have a lot of thoughts, none of which Twitter provides room for context for. The one thing I do want to make clear is that I had no intention or interest in participating in the scab broadcast, so at least that is off the table. I think one thing that you could do that Philip did not mention is if you work in any part of Riot, if you're a broadcaster, if you are in any capacity working for Riot, I mean, this is like a lot to ask of people, considering that they are not a part of the, considering that they're not a part of a union, so there's no like real adequate protections. It seems like it would be a big ask, but the one thing that people could do if they're working, if they're working with Riot in any capacity, they could make a big stink about it and apply external pressure. You know what I mean? I think some realistic ways Valorant players to walk out on Solid because NA Valorant is much more profitable to Riot now. Yeah, but I don't think there's a players union for NA Valorant. You're right, though. That is, yes. Yeah, not just players, but also streamers, commentators, etc. Oh, there is one? There's a players association in Valorant? I did not know that. An organization run by America's Valorant pro players, provide counsel and programs. Okay. It's the same as the League one, basically has no power. Players Association is not a union. I know you know, but maybe some chat doesn't. Yeah. The biggest problem is the lack of inherent leverage in esports in comparison to traditional sports. The org still has the actual game to fall back on, while they don't have competitive esports without the players. Sports doesn't have the org without the players. Yeah, that's what I mean. There's no I can't think of anything. I can't think of anything that like is comparable. I can't think of anything that's like even remotely comparable because like the dynamics are completely out of whack where it's just like they have everything, you know what I mean? They hold all the cards. So as a players association in this situation, like all you can do is just basically beg the company to be nice to you. You know what I mean? There's literally nothing. There's nothing you can do in that regard. I'm glad the LCSPA put out a statement like this because it pigeonholes them. What? Right now, my biggest concern is the overwhelming majority vote. Why it was surprising is that it doesn't strike me as the overwhelming majority would actually want the NACL to remain a small thread. A large amount of players in NALCS are specifically because the NACL and talent developments as a whole have been a failure. We had arguments on how players feel threatened by second teams in their org throughout the history of EUNA. Why would it change now? To me, I think NACL was a catalyst for the majority of NA players to try to secure job security for themselves. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. The fuck? Like, wanting job security is not wrong at all. My biggest concern for the last 24 hours has been that the LCSPA agrees to Riot protections without NACL mandate. Riot would outplay them if so, and here's why. If you use NACL demands to negotiate better protections for yourself as LCS players, then leave the NACL in the mud, but get what you wanted. Riot would destroy the LCSPA in a very real PR sense. PR-wise, the above tweet solidifies that the LCSPA must follow through with the NACL demands. This thread is pretty inside baseball stuff. I don't think you're going to get the right context and understanding of the league ecosystem. Yeah, I don't really fully get that. What is the? I also don't understand what the alternative is. I don't understand what the alternative is to having like a farming program like this. Cannot back off without NACL being remandated for NA players to develop in or Doom TLDR. I'm highly suspicious on whether the LCSPA is actually acting in NA players' best interest at all, and I hope they cap themselves PR-wise into doing so. Otherwise, the most likely scenario is they back off on the NACL demand in favor of better LCS player protections. Import is they could tie it into challenger and rank in lieu of a farming program. Get players from Korea as an alternative. I think there is, look, I don't know enough about this, but it seems like there's always an opportunity because it's all marketing, right? It's all marketing. This is all marketing. The farm program is marketing. NA, like the LCS in its entirety is marketing. It's supposed to drum up support and get people excited to root for a fucking team, but then also watch League of Legends, a competitive League of Legends, and then turn around and then like purchase skins and play the game, right? Like that's their goal. So if that's the case, NA is a really powerful market for that sort of thing. NA might not have the best talent pool as it stands, or there might have been mismanagement by teams on their farming programs with the money that they got from Riot. But ultimately, it doesn't matter because, these things take time. It's a lot of money. It costs money. But all it would take is for one fucking super solid team to pop off and garner a lot of support. NA is not in the top 3 player races. No, I know. I get that. I understand. There are caps on how many players from other regions you can have, so they can't just have full Chinese, Korean, or EU roster. Yeah, they could just open that up, though, right? And then the only issue would literally be... The only issue in that regard would then literally just be fucking visas. Fans are very aggro against full import teams. Good. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Having a full import team or fans being upset about having a full import team is not necessarily a bad thing, because that only shows, as far as I understand, that only shows that people want like NA players in the NA league, and the best way to create more NA players is by having a viable farming program. Like, part of the reason why NA is dominant in basketball in comparison to other places, right, is precisely that reason. They have incredible scouting and farming programs. Like, if you got a dude that's like halfway decent in any school playing basketball, they immediately get fucking put into a slot to possibly go to the NCAA. And before that, you didn't even need to go to the NCAA. You could go directly into the league, into the NBA. But You go to a good high school, then you go to the NCAA, and then a couple of years into the NCAA, you go into the NBA, right? Like that's because there are really good scouting programs, there's really good farming programs, like 5-star back in my day, at least when I played basketball in high school. Like that was, I think that was one of the initiatives. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of stuff even outside of school that plays a role in this. It's the same for football academies in the EU. Exactly. Yeah, but then we literally won't be NA. Like me as a watcher would not care to watch. Like why should we be just worse Korean or Chinese league? Yeah, it seems like if they've gone this far, they may go the full way. No, my point is this. They take players out of their local high school to put them in the nationally ranked schools. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you could absolutely set up a similar structure for league. It's just that it hasn't worked thus far. Yeah, there's a reason why countries in Africa and Eastern Europe don't have as good or dominant domestic teams. Exactly, because they do not have enough money on the infrastructure side to build solid scouting, farming, and training programs early on. America is an incredibly viable market. Like so many people consume league content, play league here, right? Which is why I'm saying it's shocking to me that more efforts have not been made in creating more dominant space for esports in the United States of America. It's just odd. The difference is the league patches all the time. Game is completely different from one year to the next. NA players can't commit to that because of ping and packet loss. That's why Mark Cuban didn't invest, because it's hard to keep viewers interested when they don't know what the fuck's going on. The feeder team players get paid 2x the Chinese and Korean salaries. Yeah, I understand that. Also, they're in America, so there's that. It's cost of living is significantly more expensive here. So I don't know why the fuck people are like talking about that.